mightn't be too robotic.
Biomass, the green gold of the future. Welcome to our discussion on biomass, the green gold of the future. Today we have a subject matter expert and a financial partner to delve into the world of biomass energy. My name is Paul Raftery and I'm CEO of Projects RH, and I am in Sydney today, joined by Allan Hayward, President of Hayward GreenPower Corp, based in Manila, in the Philippines, and with Gavin Austin, a CPA of many years' experience, based in Brisbane, Australia. Allan and Gavin, thanks for finding the time to be with us today. We know you travel extensively across Asia and Australasia. You both have a clear passion and knowledge of the use of crops to grow biomass for energy and growing crops for animal feed. Allan and Gavin are working with Projects RH, currently with respect to a 12,000 hectare project for growing cattle feedstock for export from the Philippines to South Korea. Welcome, Allan and Gavin.
Great, pleasure to be here.
Good to be here.
Allan and Gavin are the founders of Biomass Innovations Limited and are working together to grow and use crops for power. Allan, could you please explain the environmental arguments for replacing fossil fuels with biomass?
Well, biomass is a renewable energy source that can help reduce greenhouse gas emissions. It's considered carbon neutral because the carbon dioxide that's released during the combustion or burning is offset by the carbon dioxide absorbed during the growth of the biomass or plant.
Thank you. Gavin, what are the economic arguments for this transition?
Well, biomass can provide economic benefits such as job creation and income generation, and it can also be contribute to energy security by reducing the dependence on fossil fuels.
Thank you. Allan, what are the key crops that are being used for biomass?
Well, it depends on the soil, the rainfall, and the climate of the area that we're looking at. But basically, the key crops of biomass include dedicated energy crops such as switchgrass, leucanthus, and hybrid poplar. As well as that, we have the agricultural residues from farming, like corn stover and wheat straw. We see in the areas that we're working in, preferring to use other crops like ADX or Arundodonax and bannergrass.
Gavin, no doubt economics will have an impact on the crops selected. Could you please comment on that?
Yeah, Paul, as always, economics has a lot to do with it. Firstly, there's generally some economic reason why land has become available, for example, the price of crops. I guess a couple of examples come to mind. In the Philippines, for example, it's cheaper to import rice than it is to grow it at home. A similar situation exists in the traditional maize market areas of Colombia, for example. And that's come about because US subsidized corn is imported into Colombia at a cost that's cheaper than it can be grown locally. Local producers can't compete with these subsidies, and the price of the corn land therefore remains unused. Local landholders are therefore looking for alternative crops. Our opportunity comes from growing biomass on what is often marginal or degraded land, which is not suitable for traditional crops. This can help avoid competition with food production. There's also the political desire for energy security, where nations such as Colombia, who have long used fossil fuels, are now wanting to replace these with domestically sourced biomass. They are specifically looking for jobs in regional communities, and we're seeing this trend occurring in Australia as well.
Thank you. Look, your last point is particularly interesting because we're working with people in Texas about oil wells being capped because they're just not economically viable in the new world. Allan, I'd appreciate your comments on any special reasons for using biomass in the Philippines, Texas, the Llanos region, or the eastern plains of Colombia and in northern Queensland?
Thanks, Paul. I'll respond briefly to these questions because of the time constraints. I can't address everything in detail at the moment. But in general, the Philippines has an abundant biomass resource due to the large agricultural industry. Biomass energy can help meet the country's energy needs whilst promoting sustainable development. The land and the people are used to growing crops, and the jobs are in great demand. Texas has potential for biomass energy, again due to the large agricultural and forest-based industries. Biomass energy can provide a sustainable alternative to fossil fuels and create jobs. The Llanos area in oriental area of Colombia is known for its vast tropical grassland plains, and this could potentially benefit from biomass energy due to the rich biodiversity and agricultural resources. The area sits at the end of the national grid, the power grid, and local power is supported by installed diesel generation. This, of course, is quite expensive. Queensland in Australia has a strong interest in biofuels, including biomass, due to the potential to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, increase fuel security, and create jobs. It's looking for crops to replace sugarcane and to supply local energy needs for mineral processes. And they who need to be able to show that the energy they use was not sourced from fossil fuels, or if it is, they have purchased carbon offsets. So each of these cases has large amounts of land available and at a reasonable rental rate, an available workforce, a political will to move away from fossil fuels, and a need to rebalance their economies due to the impacts of the energy transition. And this has created local conditions to encourage biomass sector via regulation and subsidies.
Allan, thank you. Gavin, is the rapid growth of biomass a threat to food supply?
Look, Paul, there are legitimate concerns that large-scale biomass cultivation could actually compete with food production. However, using non-food crops for agricultural purposes, we are actually focusing on utilising land that would otherwise not be used for farming appropriately. For example, arid land, semi-arid land, or land that has high acidic value. I think over time, communities and the market demand will actually push the supply profile.
Gavin, thank you for that. It's interesting when we were talking to the people about the Oriental Plains, they were saying one of their concerns was salinity, and what we've been able to understand is that the proposed ADX would be quite happy to live with that. So, Allan, is there a concern about water availability? Is biomass particularly thirsty because it grows really fast?
Paul, our experience in biomass cultivation shows that it can impact water resources. However, if you use drought-resistant crops and efficient irrigation techniques, including solar pumping, then this can help manage the water use. And then if we look at ADX as an example.
Okay. Allan, thanks very much for that. How is biomass best delivered as energy?
Well, Paul, the biomass can be converted into electricity, renewable natural gas, or heat through various processes such as direct combustion, gasification, or anaerobic digestion. What is most efficient will depend on the usage and the distance from the plants to the users of the energy. Okay.
Allan, thank you. Gavin, could you please discuss the business models being deployed in the Philippines, Texas, Colombia, and Australia?
Thanks, Paul. The business model really depends not only on the country but also the situation. Generally, land that we use or is used for biomass is leased rather than owned, and investors that we find are international in their thinking. In particular, pension funds who are focusing on environmental investments as a long-term stable opportunity. One thing I will say is that each of these countries seem to become, each of these investments seems to be coming from those countries overseas, in particular the Europeans, who seem to have an advanced approach with the development of renewable energy, which they have bought from biomass.
Gavin, thank you for the comment. If we could just add what we are seeing with the international investors is they have funding available and they have strategic models. What they've done is they have hurdle rates as a return on their investment. So they're looking for 20% or more on equity and 14% or more on the project as a total. But what we're seeing, that's where their focus is. But more importantly, they want to know who's got the offtake. And that's what they're looking at, for somebody who has that.
For us, I mean, with our project in the Philippines, we have, for example, a 5-year offtake agreement in place with a number of potential purchasers in South Korea. So that in itself provides us with comfort that we are able to supply and meet expectations.
Thank you, Allan and Gavin, for this enlightening discussion. As we have learned, biomass energy holds great promise for our environment and the economy in the future. However, it's critical to continue research and innovate to ensure that the promise is realised in a sustainable and equitable manner. Thank you for joining us today, and we will continue to discuss this important topic. My name is Paul Raftery, and I'm the CEO of Projects RH. And today I've had with me Allan Hayward, President of Hayward GreenPower Corporation based in Manila, and Gavin Austin, a CPA with energy experience based in Brisbane. Together, Allan and Gavin, the drivers behind Biomass Innovations Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, goodbye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.